Afternoon from Jerusalem, Israel. This is Mr. Lowell Joseph Gallen, founder of the Root and Branch Association Limited, established in the United States of God of Israel, bless America, in 1981 in New York State, and now celebrating our 41st year. Today is Monday, September 19, 2022 in the Gregorian calendar, and the 23rd day of the 6th Israelite Hebrew month of Elul in the Hebrew Israelite calendar, year 5782, Shemitah sabbatical year, coming to a close very quickly. Next Sunday evening is Rosh Hashana, the New Year. But we have several in the Hebrew Israelite calendar. There's for trees, there's for the new monarchy. This one is the New Year for the creation of the world. It's actually the 7th month. We count from Nisan, and usually that's in April. And so we hope that perhaps 5783 this was a Shemitah sabbatical year. Maybe next year will be a Jubilee Yovel year for Israel and humanity. And if it isn't, well, we're getting closer to it sooner or later. So it's a very exciting, though also heartbreaking time to be alive. Now, welcome to episode 8 of our monthly Root and Branch Association seminar entitled Ancient Roots Mothering, Roots, Nettles and Sage, co-chaired by Mrs. J. Rivkah Asoulin of Jerusalem, Israel, Mrs. Chava Dagan, a pioneer frontier woman, lady farmer homesteader in the northern Negev, and Mrs. Gilla Weiss in the amazing state of Florida. In my opinion, America is not divided into red states and blue states. It's red states and dead states. And you don't have to get very philosophical. All you have to do is look at them. Look at California, New York, and then look at by comparison, Florida looks like unhated. You can't fake it with people. Sooner or later, as Abraham Lincoln said, you can fool some of the people all of the time, and all of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all the time. As my father said, people vote with their feet. How do I know that Texas and Florida better? Because people are fleeing New York and California to get into them, not the other way around. You can't BS your way through that. People have a very good common sense of where to go, where it's better, where it's worse. So, okay, having said that, without further ado, let me hand over the mic to our co-hosts. This is our last seminar for 5782 before we jump into hopefully the hyperspace of the Messianic era in 5783. Ladies, it's all yours.
Welcome, everybody. It is so good. I just can't stop smiling because I'm so happy to see Gilla and Chava. We have had such an amazing ride. We just finished our first herbal first aid course. If you want to learn more about that, I'm going to put that into the chat right there. You can go to ancientrootsisrael.com, and that course is still available on replay. You can purchase it from us. But we had a blast, and we, taught about what we love so much, herbal medicine. And so in preparing for this show, we were kicking around ideas and going, we're still in this herbal swing, let's continue. So for everyone who's here, who was a part of that class, this is like your bonus round. And for everyone who wasn't, you should absolutely take the class, because God willing, there will be more courses, and Herbal First Aid 1 is the prerequisite for the next course along the line. So welcome. It's hard to believe that Rosh Hashana is right around the corner. Today is Monday. Rosh Hashana is Sunday night, correct? So 1 week from now. And we were kind of discussing about the Rosh Hashanah Seder. So I'm Sfaradi. We've got, other traditions. I'll let everyone speak for themselves if they want to share it. But all of us have a Seder. Now, the most famous, Seder, and what is the Seder? It's where there are special foods that are used in a ceremony, where the name of the food is associated with a thought or idea. It's kind of like a play on words. with the name of each of the foods. And we sit around a table at our dinner table before we have the festive meal for Rosh Hashanah. And we ask for these blessings using the foods as symbolism for the phrase that the name is related to. And we all do it. So the most famous one of this is dipping the apples in the honey. Everybody knows that. And beyond that, different families and Sfaradim, Ashkenazim, Chabad, whatever, they all have their different traditions. And so we started to think about these foods. And outside of this kind of play on words with the name, is there a deeper spiritual meaning behind these particular foods and their healing qualities, their herbal medicine qualities, or in this case, food as medicine? And so we've taken a little sampling from some of the different traditions of different foods that might be used. And we'd like to share them with you today, some thoughts and some connections with herbal medicine that hopefully will enrich your family's Seder. Yeah, give you ideas how to actually use these foods to bring about wellness and healing in your own families, in addition to those symbolic brachot that we're asking for. So I'm gonna throw it on over to Chava and we'll begin.
Okay, hi everyone. So I'm going to start with apples because it's kind of, right, the definitive apples and honey. Everyone connects that with the holiday. So I'm going to divide it up, and I'm just going to take apples. Someone else will talk about honey. So apples, wow, where do I start with the apples? I mean, this is kind of many people, wrongly, but many people consider this the first fruit, right? The tree that Chava wrongly took a bite out of the fruit. It was never mentioned in the Bible that it was actually an apple. It's just been kind of connected with that along the way. Other people have mentioned maybe it was a pomegranate, maybe it was a fig, but somehow the collective memory is apples, even though that's not the case. So apples were mentioned other places throughout the Torah, in the Song of Songs and also in the Zohar. So let me just read a quote from the Song of Songs. As the apple is rare and unique among the trees of the forest, so is my beloved Israel amongst the maidens, the nations of the world. So God has actually himself given special qualities to the fruit, to the apple. Let me just find my Zohar quote before I move on. Beauty diffuses itself in the world as an apple. So apples really are connected to beauty, to the Shekhinah, to God watching over us, which is why we use the apples in our holiday meal. So as the Shekhinah is watching over us, right, this is the time when we are to open the book. God opens the book, watches what we have been doing, what we are doing, showing ourselves our full face to God. So the apple is very connected with that. Not to mention that apples are amazing for your skin. Okay, so even the skin of the apple and the apple itself, it detoxifies. It does so much inside the body, which would actually make sense when you're thinking of we're opening ourselves to God by clearing any kind of toxins, right? Or bad deeds or anything else that we want to make known and get rid of. So the apple has a lot of connotations there. Let me just go through its health benefits because it's numerous. I'll try and make it quick because I know we have a lot. So it's anti-inflammatory. It reduces viral and bacterial loads. It has phytochemicals, which are brain food. It detoxifies heavy metals out of the body, cleanses your organs, improves circulation. It just goes on and on. Hydrates cells. This is a liver food. If you think about it, our liver is, it's kind of the organ that does more than any other organ. It has almost 2,000 or even 2,000 plus functions, the liver, and the apple is very, very connected with the liver. And so it was actually chosen because of its many functions in our body and this little connotation with the Bible, and that it was in Gan Eden. It also is a fruit that brings us back to our source. When you bite into that apple, you are actually reconnecting to where we came from the original Gan Eden. I'll stop there so we can get in a lot more.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. I'm gonna jump in because the apple goes with the honey, and honey was one of mine. I have to say, I like pulled hair and punched my friends Chava and Gilla racing to get honey for myself. Okay, I didn't do all that. They were like, yeah, take honey, it's fine. Okay, so the really interesting thing about honey, and I actually double checked with Rabbi Hananya Weitzman, our friend, about this, because I remembered learning that honey is one of only 2 foods that we eat that comes from a non-kosher animal. You're not allowed to eat foods that come from a non-kosher animal. And so I said, could you check that for me, please? And, you know, he was also really gracious, and he's like, yep, you're right. And he gave me the quote, and he gave me all that information. So that's really neat. Okay, so trivia question for Ancient Roots Mothering. Honey, which comes from bees, which are not kosher, is one of the foods. What is the second food?
That comes from bees?
What? Doesn't come from bees. It comes from a non-kosher creature. Who knows? Rosh Hashana trivia. This is so perfect for us, you guys. It's breast milk. We are non-kosher animals. You can't eat a person, but you can have milk, which is a product that the mother makes for her baby. So honey is right up there with mother's milk. And there's something obviously very poetic and beautiful in that. Now, when we hear about Eretz Israel being a land of milk and honey, that honey wasn't exactly the bee's honey. That was probably date honey, although I've heard it could be fig honey, which, but probably date, okay? But no matter. So this food is obviously very, very sweet. We eat it to bring us a good and sweet new year. And the apple is like sweetness, and the honey is like sweetness on top of sweetness. So it's like a double blessing for a sweet new year. We are taught, I was going to show you this book I have too, that, you know, I don't get any kickbacks from this book, but I thought of looking at my Nature's Wealth, Health and Healing Plants based on the teachings of the Rambam in honor of the Chagim. I kind of wanted a Rambam slant for this. Anyone who doesn't know who the Rambam is, you should check it out. Rambam was one of the greatest doctors back when herbalists were called doctors, before our name was appropriated by the Western medical model and big pharma. At any rate.
In English, Maimonides.
Yes. Okay, so from the Rambam, it's understood that honey is 1/60th of the manna, which I thought was really interesting, because that 1/60th comes up in kashrut laws over and over, right? Like if you have a drop of milk in a meaty soup, if it's more than 1/60th, if it's less than 1/60th, what renders it treif? This kind of thing. So it's really interesting that this is 1/60th of the man. Why? Because it has the curative qualities of this kind of heavenly food, the manna that was given to Am Yisrael on our exodus out of Egypt, and out of a slave mentality, which I think is really important, because we're walking right back into the slave mentality right now. This is a really sweet way to find our way back out. Speaking of oppression and slave mentality, there's a Roman saying that goes, for good health, coat your outside in oil and your inside in honey. And honey has very curative properties. It's a pre-digested food because the bees have their way with it first. So it's very, very easy to digest. It's readily absorbed in our bloodstreams. It is used in heart issues for a weak heart or other heart conditions. The brain, Rambam recommended taking a teaspoon in the morning to improve memory. Liver, so here's that liver connection again. And I want to kind of shine a spotlight on the word liver, liver. It's so we can really live, right? So we're getting the toxins, clearing all those things that could harm us out of the body through the liver. So in a condition like hepatitis or some kind of liver inflammation or enlargement, honey would be indicated here. Circulation issues and red blood cell count. So this is something that would be indicated for someone who's underweight or anemic. When you're using an herbal medicine treatment that's, you know, outside of the scope of this particular seminar that we discussed in our herbal first aid course, these would be times to think about adding honey to that herbal tea or herbal wash or, you know, whatever herbal preparation you're making. If you've got someone who's underweight or with anemia or this kind of liver inflammation and so on and so forth. It strengthens, it revigorates, it freshens and refreshens for people who are weak. In fact, they used to coat a person's body if he was weak, you know, or just sickly and weak. They would coat a person's body after a hot bath or shower when the pores were really open, coat them from head to toe in honey, leave it on for a minimum of 10 minutes, and then spray it off. And that was supposed to be very invigorating, of course, to your largest organ, the skin, but also whatever is taken inside to your body and absorbed by your skin. It's used in wound care, which we discussed in our herbal first aid course, for burns, for respiratory disorders. A lot of times when you're not feeling well and you've got something happening in the respiratory, in the lungs, you'll want your tea with honey or a spoonful of honey. This is all very healing. Science, we have science and medical studies supporting its use in wound care. There are certain hospitals that use it on wounds, on burns, instead of antibiotic ointments or treatments. And the healing is even better and faster than anything Big Pharma has ever produced. And so some hospitals actually continued on with using honey in different types of wound care or around incisions, instead of going the pharmaceutical route, which is very interesting. Bronchitis, asthma, coughs, and yes, another final pointer is that Rambam and this Rav, who Rabbi Moshe Cohen Shauli, suggest using honey that was produced in the spring and summer months for having a higher therapeutic value than winter and fall. Okay, we're bouncing it to Gilla.
Thank you, Rivkah. That was amazing. So I am going to discuss dates. And as Rivkah said, and she alluded to, honey, again, you know, we're told the land of milk and honey. And there are many who believe that it was date honey that was meant in the land of milk and honey. And dates are native to the Middle East. They are native to Israel. They grow in warm places. They grow in California. You find them all over the place. And they come from the date palm. So the date palm tree. The Hebrew name for date is tamal. Tamal. So obviously date is also one of the seven species of Israel. And on Rosh Hashana, we say, actually, one of the things that we say about dates is that our enemies should be, excuse me, that our enemies should be annihilated, yit'amu, excuse me, which means yit'amu comes from the same root word as tamar. So that's where it's taken from. And that is the blessing that we give ourselves and everyone. Excuse me. Okay, dates are mentioned obviously by Rambam, but also by our sages. And can I ask Chava to continue, I'm going to go grab a glass of water and a spoon of honey, and I'll be right back.
Okay. So while she's gone, I'll talk about pomegranates. That is one of my favorite fruits. Pomegranates, it is said, although we've tried counting and it doesn't always come out to 613 in the seeds, it is said that the seeds of the pomegranate are supposed to come out to 613 seeds, which correlates to 613 mitzvot that we are commanded to keep. Doesn't always, but it's okay. It is plentiful. There are so many seeds inside. It has, each one is its own world. Each one contains juice. If you open it very carefully and not pop open all of the seeds, each one contains its own little glass of juice. And inside of there is, wow, antioxidants. It's known to dissolve stones, nodules, calcifications, and cysts, including ovarian cysts. It builds the blood, working on also the white cells and the red cells. It levels out blood sugar. It helps the adrenals. It's a brain food. It unclogs pores, taking out all the extra toxins and flushing them away. It can go on and on. What's also known or correlated to the pomegranate is that it's been around for so long. So it is one of the 3 fruits that were brought to Moshe when the spies went out to see about the land of Israel and what it has, what kind of fruits it has. And so therefore it is contextual with fruitfulness. The land is fruitful. That's what they saw when they brought home these pomegranates. The seeds are multiple in there. And so we do the blessings for being fruitful, prosperous. It is known to be correlated with fertility. We've talked many times throughout our courses and our other workshops, the doctrine of signatures. I suggest people look it up because I don't really have time to talk about it. It's not a book. It is when you see a fruit or an herb or a leaf or a tree, what does that make you think of? Okay, that's it in a nutshell. So when you look at a pomegranate, it kind of looks like a very large scrotum, if you think about it, or a breast, a mammary gland, right? And inside are all of these tiny, tiny little seeds and vessels. So it kind of brings to mind fertility, sexuality. And throughout time, they have used the symbol of a pomegranate for thousands and thousands of years, not only in the Jewish symbols, but in our neighboring Middle Eastern countries. They've used them on tombs, scepters, weapons, the pillars of the Bet HaMikdash. At the very top, they had pomegranates, and graves, and many, many things. This has been a symbol all over the world. Its health benefits are well known, and its Jewish connection has been around for a long, long time. You're muted. Yeah.
Before Gilla
Thank you so
jumps,
much.
before Gilla jumps back in, I just put into the chat to learn more about the doctrine of signatures. You can see an incredible, very short class, about 20, 30 minutes, I don't know, long, with Eva Lindbergh. And the link is right there in the chat. You can check it out to learn a bit more about that.
So we go back to dates after the pomegranates. And it's so interesting because so many of these fruit and vegetables and honey share so many interesting and similar properties too. So as I said, dates not only were recommended by Rambam, Maimonides, interestingly, Rambam did not recommend eating a lot of fruit, contrary to today, when we try to be healthy or encourage our kids, we always say, oh, eat fruit, eat fruit. Rambam had a really common sense, rich, traditional, medicinal base knowledge, and he knew that too much fruit is not what we should be feeding our kids. So one of the things Rambam did recommend was, he said, you can eat dates, figs, and grapes only in the summer months, and don't overdo it. So very common sense again. And dates are high in fructose. They are high in sugar, but dates, those small, delicious, moist fruit, are packed with nutrients. So besides Rambam, our ancient sages of blessed memory tell us in brachot that when one dreams of a date, if you've ever dreamt of a palm tree with dates or eating dates, that is a sign that all of our sins have been forgiven. So that's one, especially to remember now as we come to Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur. That should be on our minds if we dream about dates. In Ketubot, we are told that dates are warming and that they are laxative. They are. And that they are filling. Yes. And they are strengthening. So from there, we get the hint that dates are a food that are given to people who are recovering, people who are not well, older people, babies, infirm, healthy, everyone. Dates have a really long history in many cultures, especially in the Middle East, of being a food of the nomads and a food that you take when you travel. Dates can be dried and all the nutrients will still be there, and the dates are preserved by the sugars and the drying process. So dates are a great on-the-go food. They're a great famine food, I would say. They're a great food in times of food shortages. We've spoken about this before, so I just have to plug that in. Dried dates are a good thing to have on hand. I alluded to the laxative in dates. Dates are really, really good. And we're told, Rambam says, they are helpful in the digestive system, since they are a very, very good source of fiber and a softening, gentle type of fiber, and not, like when we're going to go and have dried prunes. So it's very different. And Rambam also suggests dates for people with heart issues. And there are people who, they eat 4 or 5 dates a day. Again, we're not going to go buy the big bag from Costco or from anywhere. And every time we want a snack, we're going to have 10 dates. We're talking around 4, 5 at the most, 6 or 7 dates a day tops. So they are something small. And as Chava spoke about the doctrine of signatures, same thing with dates. Rambam says that they are helpful for men's fertility and virility. So I will just allude to the doctrine of signatures there, which makes a lot of sense. You can go and research it and look it up yourself. Like I said, they're a rich source of different vitamins and minerals. Dates, interestingly, the date pits ground into a powder are used for open wounds and infective wounds, wounds that have pus, and they are considered to be very effective like that. And that again is from the Rambam. They're rich in so many nutrients. One of the things that they have is they have a nice balance of saturated and unsaturated fats. And they have supposedly prostaglandins. So there are many interesting nutrients in dates that have yet to be studied. So here's the cherry on the top. I bet none of you knew that dates, there are actual studies, 3 at least that I know of and more, that suggest and have shown that dates should be eaten during pregnancy. And there are studies showing that dates actually 77% in studies show women having 77% of women having shorter labors. Who doesn't want a shorter labor? And not only that, 68% of women were more likely to have a healthy, normal vaginal birth than the non-date counterparts. So these are just some statistics. I suggest you go and look that up. And according to the studies, I think they said around 6 dates a day. And this is something, I'm a birth worker, so I do pass this along. And it's great to incorporate this in to your diet. And again, you know, buying a bar or a cookie that has dates in is not the same thing. We're talking about the actual dates. So that is my favorite part of surprising people with something from dates. Rivkah?
I knew that about pregnancy.
Yes, of course you did.
Chava, did you know that?
I don't remember it. I might have heard it before.
No, I'm sure you looked at it before. Have any of you used the pits of dates in wound care?
No, I knew it was a coffee substitute.
Yeah, I knew that as well. And I knew about the wound care, but I've never used it. Have you, Gilla?
I haven't. No.
Uh-huh.
No.
Yeah, I
but
grabbed for something else. Maybe we should be saving the date pits.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely try that. I just recently read about it, and I remember hearing about that somewhere. I think some people have used that along with maybe turmeric powder. I'm trying to remember, or a different spice, but I'm going to try it out and we're going to share.
Yeah, there's so many herbs that can be powdered and used in wound care. It's really, really amazing. You know, I'm noticing a common theme here of fertility and things that can be used year round. I mean, that's a feature of honey, is that it can keep forever. We have honey that's thousands of years old. And, you know, I'm going to be talking about beets. So these liver issues, and then the doctrine of signatures, which again, the links in the chat, but some of these deep red, like how I was talking about the red pomegranates, like anytime you see this deep red kind of where there's a juice that comes out of it, especially, this is like blood building, blood nourishing, red blood cells, this kind of thing, or even in wound care, and also doctrine of signatures for the heart, that sort of thing, especially here in the case of beets. We make a blessing on beets. It comes from there's a connection. So in Hebrew, beet is selek. And in the blessing that we ask for is leselek, to remove our enemies. So that's the connection right there. The Latin name is Beta vulgaris. I didn't have a Latin name for honey. I don't know. I just figured, is there a Latin name for honey? Maybe there is. There must be. Anyway, I don't know. Something to look into. Yeah, Abigail, will come right back to your question. So about the beets. Okay, so another thing is that a lot of foods that we eat are native to the Mediterranean region or to this region, and beets are certainly one of them. There are 2 cultivated types of beets that are here in Israel, but there are many other kind of beets, and wild beets grow all over the country. They are grafted, the 2 cultivated beets that we have here are grafted from these wild beets, and they typically like damp, salty earth. So that would be where you might find these wild beets in the country. Maybe in your neck of the woods, Chava. Do you have any wild beets? You know? No. If anyone knows where wild beets are in the country, let us know in the chat. Once again, we're talking about fertility, and this is also specifically male fertility. So the juice of the beet is used for impotence. but the entire beetroot is used in infertility. There's kind of two edible parts of the beets, even though with wild beets, it's only the aerial parts, the greens. It's apparently not the root, but with the cultivated kinds, you can eat the root. I didn't know that. But anyway, the greens are very, very high in vitamin A. They're, used in place of spinach. They have like a very neutral flavor. They can be eaten fresh or cooked. And, they have their own health benefits. And we do incorporate those into at least our Seder as well. But the beetroot is kind of the part that's really well known. So here's a few, one more thing. Again, it's a liver herb, and also glands and gallbladder. So people ask me all the time, they're having gallstones, they're having something like this. You may want to look into incorporating beets, whole beets, or even the beet juice into your diet for something like that. People would stew the beetroot. They would stew it with cane sugar, okay? And that would be used for dry coughs in children, a very specific type of cough that you would see in children. Of course, anytime we're making a syrup with sugar, the children eat it. It helps with, sore throats and coughs, which is why you have all these cough syrups, both in traditional herbal medicine as well as pharmaceutical medicine. So this is another way that you can make your own kind of cough syrup at home by stewing those beetroots with cane sugar. It's good for the digestive system. Again, a constipation herb or a constipation food. I'm using the term food and herb interchangeably. But that's very interesting because if you think about what's happening when you're constipated, what is happening? You're like, you can't release that which you don't need. You can't release that which is harmful to you. You can't release the toxins and the negativity. And so our people are eating these herbs, these medicinal fruits that are saying, release it, get rid of it. It doesn't serve you anymore. You don't need it. That's hurting you. It's toxic to you. Let it go. Let it go. Okay. Gastric ulcers. So again, that kind of red color, we're talking about ulcers and this kind of thing. Usually there's a connection when you see that deep red color in foods. Anemia, obviously, there's that red color again. Cool factoid, the liquid from cooking the beets, okay, when you cook beets, you cook them in water, boil them in water, some of them in water. You can take that red liquid out and use it to massage into your scalp, men or women, for hair loss. And it can help with that. I don't know, I've never tried it, but I would imagine, especially for men who are balding, that they may not appreciate the red coloring that may be left over from using the juice, because beets are a really great dye, right? We can use them to dye cakes and, icings and for birthday cakes and whatever. And it's a healthy, nutritious dye where you basically boil the beets and then you reduce, okay, culinary term, you reduce that liquid down and then use it in your icing or in your cake or whatever to make a healthy red velvet cake or whatever you want. Okay, so not only the hair loss, but also dandruff, any type of dandruff or skin condition that's happening in the scalp, which is interesting too, because, you peel the beets. And when you peel the beets, it looks really bald, like a bald kind of scalp, like all stripped away. And not only in the scalp, but also for any kind of dry or peeling skin, anywhere on the body. Okay, next. Are we at Gilla?
Oh, me again? Okay,
Yeah.
Let's go for it. Okay, so I actually chose pumpkins. And I know many of you might be thinking pumpkins, Thanksgiving, cinnamon, pumpkin pie. How's that Rosh Hashana, right? Well, pumpkins, interestingly, belong to the family of both. They're a fruit, because people always say, they're a squash or are they a gourd? Well, they belong to the gourd family. And so they're actually a fruit and a gourd, yummy pumpkins. And there are different pumpkins that grow pretty much all over the world. So pumpkins have a long tradition in foods from all the different Jewish peoples from all the different countries. So all the parts of pumpkin are edible. The seeds, the leaves, the flowers, and the pumpkin itself. The Aramaic word for pumpkin is kara. So in Hebrew, pumpkin is typically referred to as dla'at, but in Aramaic, it was called kara. So on Rosh Hashanah, when we eat pumpkin, we ask that any harsh decrees, any harsh gezerot be torn up. And the word for torn up in Hebrew is kara or kara, from the word to tear, the Hebrew word to tear. And that has the same root word and sounds very similar to the word kara. So that's, I think, where it comes from. That is according to our sages. Okay, pumpkin is a food with a very high fiber content. Again, we have this theme of fiber with all of these fruit, all of these vegetables, and a very gentle fiber as well. Just look at the color of pumpkin and you can see that it has those carotenes, very anti-inflammatory food, which is today a big word. Everybody knows anti-inflammatory. We all have inflammation, all of us. So pumpkins, yes. Again, really rich source of vitamins and minerals, high potassium, phosphorus, which is one that we don't get in all of our foods, magnesium, carotenes, like as I said before. Something interesting, if you're interested to know, how am I going to cook this for Rosh Hashanah? Well, you can make pumpkin pie, or you can, you can do anything you want. But there are some really, really good recipes, which you could find, just look online, and different cultures that have made different things. So for example, Tunisians make a pumpkin jam that is served on Rosh Hashanah. Yes, pumpkin jam. And there's recipes online, I looked it up. Jews that hail from Turkey and Greece have made a type of a confection, and it's called dulce de la calabaza, which sounds delicious any way you put it. It's like a candied pureed pumpkin, something I'm going to be looking up. And Moroccans have traditionally feasted on pumpkin soup with roasted, toasted pumpkin seeds on Rosh Hashanah. So that's just a little smattering of some of the things that I read, and there was more. So I'm just giving that to you so that you get the flavor, and then you're going to go look it up. The next thing that I'm going to discuss about pumpkins, and I'm sure some of you are waiting for that, is the seeds, pumpkin seeds. We all know them. They're eaten pretty much everyone, they're a kind of garinim, snack food. And the seeds, especially raw, this is important to know, actually help to eliminate intestinal worms, parasites. Yes, parasites. So this is something that is really easy to incorporate. One of the ways that I do that is I grind them, raw pumpkin seeds, I grind them, and I put enough for a week or so in the freezer to keep all those nutrients, to keep everything, preserve it. And then I add that to smoothies. There are many ways you can use raw pumpkin seeds in salads. Sprinkle a few on a salad. You can add them to so many dishes. And you can also cook with them and bake with them. But specifically for the parasites, we want them raw. So it's just something that is a good idea to incorporate, every once in a while, especially with kids. Something that I didn't know, and this is according to Rambam, the seeds have a mucilage to them. So they're moistening and they're helpful for the urinary tract. So they may not cure a urinary tract infection per se, but they're going to soothe a burn. They're going to soothe that feeling of, the pain and the spasms associated with a urinary tract infection. So that is something to take into consideration, because it's something that you can eat on the go, even, along with other herbs that you might be using. There's more, but I don't want to take up the whole day. So those were the two that just stood out for me about the pumpkin seeds. Chava.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about black-eyed peas. This has been a tradition throughout the Jews' holidays, of Christian holidays, African, Southern. If you have any relatives from the South, which I do, we all grew up with this this bean, which is in the cowpea family. I don't remember if it was Aramaic or Hebrew, maybe that was the confusion, rubia or lubia. They're kind of interchangeable. Some say it means fenugreek seeds, some say it was the black-eyed peas. The black-eyed peas won over, and that's what we eat. Some people who are more liberal in their interpretation, or even just what they can get at the store, will use any kind of a bean to replace it if needed. But we traditionally will use the black-eyed peas. So why is that? How did they come to be in a Jewish holiday when it really, where did that come from? So there are many different traditions as to how that came about. So one storyline was that it was brought from African countries, because that's where it traditionally and originally grew as a crop. It can survive in their crazy climate, which sometimes is too humid, sometimes too dry, depending on the country in Africa. And it will proliferate and grow wild everywhere with hardly any care. You don't need pesticides. You don't need, any gardening skills at all. It will just grow. So they might have, the Jews, Sephardic Jews that came over to America and settled in the South, might have brought them, and my guess is that they did, on the ships, and then began growing them there, because the South also, you plant them, it will just grow, and they were easy and they were quick. You plant them and grow them and harvest them in a very short time. So people who were just arriving in America, this is, an easy crop for them to grow and then to eat right away. So also said was that they were brought over to America on slave ships. The Africans came over and they had the same crops on their ships and they planted them. So it was kind of a mix of this and that. These beans have been related to emancipation with the slaves who were freed on January 1st, 1863. So there we have January 1st for the Christians, the Americans. They eat them on New Year's as a good luck food. Someone just wrote to me something I'd forgotten about today. She asked me, can we find black-eyed peas in Israel? Because I really want them. It's getting to be that kind of time of year, and I want to make them for my family. And the way that she grew up, and I remember this too, is that they would drop a coin into the pot of black-eyed peas. And then as the server is dishing them out, whoever gets that coin in their bowl has the extra blessing for the year. Funny little traditions that we all came up with. So what is the connection with black-eyed peas? As a bean is dried, and that's how we buy it, and then we soak it or cook it, it expands in its composition. And that relates to increase, abundance, fertility, again with the fertility, right? Fruitfulness, prosperity, all of these things. So we are hoping and wishing that we eat these foods as a symbol of the year to come. Specifically, black-eyed peas is meant to ward off the evil eye because of its black spot. Okay, so that's why it has come to be the one to bring luck, to our traditional ways, whether it's the Christian holidays or the Jewish holidays. It brings good fortune by warding off that evil eye. That was it. That was black eyed peas. Oh, they are very high in nutrition. And so therefore, no matter where you are and what position you're in, right? If you have those peas, those black eyed peas, you can have the nutrition that you need, even if nothing else is going on around you at that time.
It's another food that can be stored all year round, you know. And what I really like about it too, I mean, I feel like, you know, we're kind of rushing through because we could hit this from the spiritual side, the medicinal side, the culinary side, but the idea of taking a dried bean, which is how beans are typically prepared, and then it absorbs whatever liquids you put it in, which is really like how we are. We are absorbing whatever you put around us, whatever pot we've chosen to live in or be in. So again, the symbolism there is rich indeed. Yeah, I knew about the New Year's tradition with black-eyed peas. I had no idea that was connected to slavery, but I knew it was eaten in the Christian New Year by many Southern folk. Okay, I'm gonna discuss carrot, gezer. Carrot is kind of fitting for me personally, because as wisewomanfertility.com, I work with women with women's health issues and fertility and this sort of thing. And wild carrot, called Darkis carota, is where the cultivated carrot actually comes from. And wild carrot is used as a medicinal herb. I've wildcrafted this, tinctured it, studied it, used it a lot. I have much to say about that. That's out of the scope. But wild carrot doesn't have the same medicinal indications as cultivated carrot. It's totally different. Okay, the cultivated carrot comes from wild carrot. However, not the same thing. So I just want to put that out there for anyone who does know about the medicinal uses of wild carrot and is going, wait a minute, is this a problem? No, it's okay. And also, you're not really eating the part that's used in herbal medicine, which are the blossoms and the seeds. In particular, when you're having a cultivated carrot, you're eating that root. It's a root vegetable. Okay. Carrot is called gezer in Hebrew, and the word gezerah means decree. So we're getting rid of any evil decrees, right? Which is why we're eating the carrot. However, if you are Ashkenazi or a Yiddish speaker, the word is merin.
Merin, yeah.
Merin, okay. And it means to multiply. So here we go again. There's almost every one of these herbs is associated with fertility. This one as well, although it's kind of interesting. it's related to fertility with a twist. But there's been a particular emphasis on male fertility. So again, that blessing to be fruitful and multiply, that blessing to have children, especially in a day and age where we are trying to be convinced in this cult of scarcity, the lack of resources, the overpopulation, the negativity in having children. And this is part of the thing that we celebrate, part of the things that we celebrate, part of our value system that is eternal as the Jewish people, to really be fruitful and multiply and mind our fertility. Carrots take about 6 months to grow, but they grow all over the place. You find carrots all over the world, including the wild carrot that's used medicinally. And when I talk with people and wild carrot comes up and they go, oh, I don't know, that we probably don't have that here. Yes, you do. It's on every continent. It's everywhere. Carrots are great that way. And carrots store for a very long time. They can store in a root cellar in a dark place that's cool and dark, or in a refrigerator. So again, there's that theme of things that last for a long time, last throughout the ages, which of course we're promised the Jewish people will do as well. Just to add, darkest carota, which is the Latin name for carrot, comes also from the Mediterranean, just like beets. It originates here in this region. And the wild carrot that's used herbally, it's the subspecies sativus, which is what differentiates it from darkest carota, because it does have the same Latin name. Okay. We understand that the more orange red color, so again, we've got the beta carotenes, right? The more orangey red color, the higher the nutrient content in the carrots. So when you're looking for carrots at the store or growing your own, you want to look for carrots that have very rich, vibrant colors. Vitamin A and carotene, that's kind of what carrots are known for, but it's really interesting because those are two really important elements for growth, which on a spiritual level, right? We could use some growth. But it isn't only growth for us personally, it's also growth when you think about fertility and a gestation period. A woman in pregnancy, she's growing a baby, okay? So carrots are considered very excellent food medicines for pregnant women, as well as breastfeeding women. It really helps with lactation and producing rich, delicious milk. In fact, carrot juice was my first baby's first food. She went from mother's milk to little spoonfuls of carrot juice, freshly juiced carrots right in her mouth. It almost has the same kind of sweetness and almost malted sweetness kind of taste of breast milk, something very mellow and gentle and lovely. If you haven't tried it, give it a try. Liver and skin conditions, asthma, coughs, nasal discharge, all those respiratory things, again, something to meditate on. Restoring normal bowel movements. There's that issue again, although it can be used for either diarrhea or constipation. Preventing infections, heart, muscles, blood, immunity, to clean the blood and intestines, to mix with squash seeds against intestinal worms, as Gilla mentioned. And also it's very well known for the eyes, especially mixed with beet juice. Now we're getting a message here that Lowell has to go. So I think we have to cut things short. Lowell, is there any way we can continue on without you, or it's not possible?
Well, unfortunately, with my $14.95 a month membership, I'm not able to have 2 Zoom programs running at once. If I upgrade to the next level, maybe I'll be able to do that. So, because each program can run up to 24 hours, but they can't run consecutively. So I have to look into news upgrade Zoom and for the next year.
Gilla, you've got to hang on to your last food.
Right.
Hang
'Cause I
on to that
haven't-
thought. And we thank everybody for joining us. Sorry, we're kind of rushing off, but we had to reschedule and there's kind of a scheduling conflict with Lowell's next show. Lowell, thank you so much for having us.
Shana Tova to everybody. Okay, good night.
Everyone.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.